My original plan for this week's video was to give you all a budget entry point for Legacy with a cheap version of Legacy Burn, but then I ended up having zero fun, dying horribly over and over again. I had one particularly close match where my opponent does nothing on turn 1 and I play a mountain and look lovingly at this hand I kept full of 2-mana spells. I contemplate for a second, am I really this bad at Magic? He discards a Griselbrand. Oh, fuck my life already. For those of you who don't know, Reanimator and Show and Tell are two of the worst matchups for Burn in the entire format, and this was the first match I'd played with the deck. So, yeah, pretty bad. I play an Eidolon and I pass. He casts Petal and Exhumes, taking 4 damage from the Eidolon, but he gets to make a 7/7 lifelinker. We untap and we place a Furic Vortex and hope we can get there. Vortex turns off life gains. The lifelinking part of the 7/7 becomes a little less of a you lose the game and more of just a considerable clock that we probably can't deal with. On his turn he takes 2 attacks and takes us to 11. On our turn we take 2 from the Vortex and go to 9. We need to draw exactly one mana 3 damage spell to steal this game out from under him. We draw a fucking mountain.
Everyone loves a fucking good mountain.
Eidolon attack, Bolt, Rift and Fire Blast would have been 13 damage, but no, we are dead in our upkeep to our own Vortex. In game 2 we have 2 Tormod's Crypts in our Mortar 6, so I keep it. No lands, but fuck it, stopping him from reanimating some nonsense and worry about killing him later. Turn 3 he casts Show and Tell. The frustrating part is that the more popular red-black version of this deck would have been an easier matchup with these crypts, and is far more common online. But oh well, maybe it won't be something too backbreaking. Iona. Naming red. I mean, this is very representative of how bad the Burn games were going. There is another instance where I missequenced and I missed 1 point of damage and it cost me the whole fucking game. I led with Taylor Swift Spear. Baby, now we got it back. And he leads with Veteran Explorer. I have 14 points of damage in hand, which can all be castable if I Chain Lightning this here Veteran Explorer and get the lands off it. I think it through, but get too excited when I realise I can do this, and I don't cast the second Swift Spear first, meaning I miss out on 1 Paras trigger of damage from this Chain Lightning. Chain kills the Vet, we get 2 more mountains, I cast another Taylor. I then Flame Rift and Fire Blast his face and swing, taking him to 3 life, which leads him dead to any top decks barring lands and Eidolon. He Living Wishes for Phyrexian Tower, plays it, and I'm happy that he doesn't do anything else because a turn 3 Siege Rhino is not uncommon from a Nick Fit player. I draw a mountain.
Everybody loves a fucking good mountain, mate.
I attack and I take him to 1 and feel very salty. It's my own fault, but he would be dead now if I just sequenced last turn correctly and got that extra prowess damage. He Collective Brutality's 1 Swifty and goes back to 3. And then he plays an Evo Leap. I love Evo Leap. I go to draw step and I draw another fucking mountain.
But you know what they say, boys, everyone loves a fucking mountain.
He plays a Rector, sacks it, shoots up a fucking curse thing off of the spell and makes an Omniscience off the Rector and then casts the curse. So even my hasting dudes are now 1/1s without haste. I draw a mainboard Caracas that I've got that is meant to improve the matchup against Iona. But I guess I don't draw it when I need it. He does some shit, resulting in an onboard Nico Bolas, Curse of Death's Hold, and Dovescape. I think I'm playing the wrong deck here. That deck looks a lot more interesting for a video. I cannot win. I am locked out of the game. I decided to not give MTGO the chance to give me another fucking land off the top because I might just rage so hard that I do a little poop. And I scoop. So I lost a lot of games to not being experienced enough with my deck in a difficult and complicated format, keeping bad hands and missequencing my plays. So they're the only logical thing a man in my position can do. I go to Twitter to complain. Is Legacy Burn literally the worst deck in the format? I cannot win a game in the Comp League with this pile of shit. Of course, the community was as supportive as ever.
Someone hasn't introduced you to Legacy Slivers yet.
Of course I'm fearful of this response. I was bribed to play in Legacy Pox a few weeks ago on stream, and I know that my viewers really like to see me suffer. What can I say? Money is quite convincing. And then of course, everybody's favourite Guild of Guin player chimes in.
So how much would I have to donate to make you play a bad deck of my choice?
So I dropped Seth a DM, we talked prices. Needless to say, Seth now owes me $20 on a Taco Bell. Alright boys and girls, let's do this. Hi, I'm Vince, also known as PleasantKenobi on the internet. I'm the Magic the Gathering content creating equivalent of playing Burn badly through 2 competitive leagues and then blaming the deck for my losses. This week we are playing Legacy Slivers because Saffron Olive owes me a Taco Bell. This list looks like so, taking influence from Andrea Mengucci's most recent Channel Fireball videos back in December and a Twitter user by the name of Flutchy. I really hope I didn't butcher that name too badly, I'm sorry if I did, I'm sorry. The game plan is to deploy enough Slivers to threaten huge lethal attacks. It's kind of like a poor man's Merfolk, but infinitely more exciting to play. It's a Cavern of Souls and Eighth of Isle deck, so it has a good time against most blue fair decks. However, combo might cause us some issues if you have very little interaction with its main board. We have Force of Will in order to avoid dying to turn 1 combo or fast combo, although we may still struggle to deal with lands or turbo decks and similar decks like that. As much as I joke that it's a weak version of Merfolk, the deck actually has some intricacies that set it apart quite distinctly and make it quite fun to play. Sidewinder Sliver, for example, makes it so that True Name Nemesis and Baleful Strix aren't massive roadblocks by using flanking. This will be the first video and perhaps the last video on the channel to ever see flanking outside of Momir Vig, so that's pretty cool. Crystalline Sliver, for example, is a fucking nightmare for any fair deck looking to interact with my creatures. It makes Death and Taxes Day a lot harder and blanks Plowshares, Bolts and Pushes. It can even counter a Wasteland activation if Viled in and a Mutavault is activated in response to become a Sliver. Yeah. Get 'em. My favourite card on the list though for tricksy bullshit is Hibernation Sliver. It allows you to dodge removal, which if you have an Eighth of Isle becomes quite absurd as you can redeploy the bounced creature in the same turn. It allows you to attack all in and bounce the guys that get blocked unfavourably, but most of all, it allows you to deploy all of your blue Slivers and then still be able to bounce one of them back to hand in order to pitch it to Force of Will in a clutch moment. The deck is a lot of fun, Vile decks tend to be, but is it competitive? Well, let's find out. Oh, and another really cool point of note is that it's actually cheaper to build both online and paper than modern humans and shares the same mana base and the vials. So building to something like this isn't just dead staples as well. The lands, the forces and vials are all solid staples in other decks and other formats. So actually, this might be a good starting point for some people. As always, this episode is sponsored by MTGO Traders and Cape Fear Games. They're supporting me to keep making this content and one day soon devoting my working life to this channel. If you want to support the channel, you can buy digital cards from Traders and physical cards from Cape Fear Games and use the discount code on screen now to get a discount and to support the channel directly. And of course a big shout out to my patrons too, the largest contributors of which are now on screen. You guys are helping to make this labour of love all worthwhile financially, so when the wife asks, "What are you doing this Saturday?" I scramble down the hallway hunched over like a golem screeching, "A video, a video, a video." She can't really complain because I have responsibility to those invested in the channel. So thanks again guys for encouraging me to have a poor work-life balance. If you want to get involved with encouraging me to make more and more content and burn my candle at both ends, then you too can also give to the Patreon. If you give at least $2 a month, you have access to the Discord server where we normally just chat shit, moan about losing streaks, and sometimes, just sometimes, talk about Ajani hentai. Okay, so we start this league with a glorious no-lander, but at least we have Force of Will, right? Right? We mulligan to 6, see a Vial, a Mutavault, 2 more lands, and 2 pumpy gym boys looking to train our Slivers to be thick. This is a snap keep. We lead with Caracas and Eighth of Isle in order to hide what we are playing from our opponent. A Bayou into Noble successfully hides what he is on. I'm assuming it's some form of Maverick, but I don't really have any fucking idea. We play our first Muscle Boy in Sinew Sliver. He casts Chain of Smog, which I've never seen before. It appears to be a non-randomised hymn, slightly easier to cast in terms of not having double black mana, and can be copied by the person targeted. The black part of the chain cycle that Chain of Vapor belongs to, I believe. We discard a land and a Muscular Sliver, and I choose not to copy. This, plus the Wasteland, makes me think he is some form of Crucible or Loam deck that will break the symmetry of the card. If he copies it too, then we would be in top deck mode and we don't generate card advantage in the deck very well at all. I have seen some people suggest lead the Stampede and even collect the Company, but that would involve skewing our mana base towards being able to cast green spells, and I feel that would make the deck considerably worse in terms of consistency or just not allowing us to play some of the better Slivers. He plays a second Noble Hierarch. We draw a second Mutavault, which isn't the worst. We activate the existing one before playing the new one to avoid confusion with the MTGO interface. The last thing I want right now is a summoning 6 Mutavault. We then Violin our Predator lookalike and get in the red zone for 7 points of damage. He plays a River Boa, which feels very old school. A 2/1 regenerator with Island Walk, which might be a good piece of anti-Delver tech perhaps, but it seems quite weak against the majority of the field and only deck playing swords to Plowshares. Oath of Nissa finds a Korsali Pride Mage. We begin to say our goodbyes to Eighth of Isle. Between that, the Wasteland and this freshly played Rashad and Port, we might not be deploying any more Slivers for the rest of this game. We keep a vial on 2 as that's the sweet spot for the deck. See, it's just like Merfolk kids. We draw a hive. Not ideal, but it means we can get out from underneath the land in our plan, I guess. We activate both our Mutavolts and go to attack. Wasteland kills 1, Riverburrow blocks the other, regenerates, and our opponent takes 6 in total. Land, Pride Mage, and pass from our opponent. We draw a second vial, which means we get to continue to play Magic through the disruption from our opponent. We animate Mutavolt, but before combat he ports it down. We attack into possible double blocks, but he can't Pride Mage our vial if he wants to successfully double block, so he simply chumps and then blows up our vial. He takes 3. We play our vial second main phase. He wastelands our Mutavolt in his turn, which is pretty sad. He ports us an upkeep. We crash him with our sinewy predatory boys. He chumps with a noble and regen blocks with a boa. He plays a land and passes. We get ported. We draw another muscular lad. We attack. He chewed up a Dryad Arbor with his Verdant and double blocks one of our Slivers and chumps the other. We blow out his double block with a Vial activation into another motivational lad, pumping our team to a bunch of 4/4s. He loses much in this confrontation. He untaps, takes a draw, and then concedes. Because he appears to be a fundamentally fair deck, we cut our Force of Wills and 1 Lord Sliver in order to bring in the Harmonic and Hunter Slivers. Harmonic allows us to kill Crucibles or equipment if he is playing a Stoneforge package, whilst Hunter Sliver allows us to use the Provoke mechanic, another first for the channel, and make very unfavourable blocks for him, killing Dorks, Dryad Arbors, unused Stoneforge Mystics, etc, etc, etc. We keep a 2-lander with 4 Sliver Lords in it against a Wasteland deck. Against a Wasteland deck, this is understandably suspect, but on the other hand, curving 1-drop into 2-drop into 2-drop before the first Wasteland might be good enough to get us off to the races. They lead with the noblest of hierarchs. We draw a Flying Sliver, which feels super strong in this matchup after seeing his creature base last game. We lead with a first Striking Sliver. He plays a Wasteland, which could cause all sorts of pain here, but he doesn't use it and instead casts everyone's favourite Elephant Boy, Loxodon Smiter. Smite me harder, daddy. I wonder if there are actually people out there who are like furries, but for elephants? Oh god. I play a Predator. We get chunked for 5 from a roided up Elephant Badman. He plays a Port. Oh god, the irony of being a D&T player and this happening is not lost on me. He wastelands our Coloured Source and upkeep ports me. Oh, it hurts. It hurts. We draw the 6th Sliver Lord. Not even remotely ideal. Right, it's race time. Plowshares on the Predator. Fuck. He takes 1 damage. That'll show him. He plays a Wiltleaf Legion. Now I understand what he's on. He's like the anti-him deck, playing Chain of Smog in the hope that the opponent copies it and then just drop a Smiter on a Legion and just wreck their face in. I can respect that. I quite like this. This might be the truest form of legacy hate bears built to slap the tits off of black decks like rock decks and mid-range black-blue decks. I draw a 1-drop Sliver and die horribly. The problem here was that the 2-land keep against an aggressive Mana Dinar deck. Yeah, live and learn, that was bad. I trim a Harmonic and another Lord for the lifelink Slivers, now that I don't think he's necessarily on the Stoneforge Blade plan. We see another 2-lander, but this time with an Aether and a 1-drop, plus a Lord, Shroud, and Bounty Dew. Makes his hand all very legit. If I autopilot here and played Ziggy, I wouldn't have even been able to cast the Vial. But look guys, I avoided the punt, so I must be good at magic, right? A noble from them. We play a Shroudy Crystalline Sliver first to strand Plowshares in his hand and pass back with Viola. The Elephant Lad arrives. Would you like to fumble my peanuts, Dumbo baby? I make a striker. Untap, make a Lord, and keep a Lord in the Vial. I swing, he doesn't take the bait, no blocks. I don't make the Lord before combat because I consider if we might need a Hibernation Sliver against a Wrath or removal like Council's Judgment or Toxic Deluge. Ultimately, this is probably a mistake and far too conservative. It's unlikely that a deck like his is playing something like Deluge. Oath of Nissa finds a Dryad Arbor. A second copy of Oath finds a Verdant Catacombs, which is used to chew up a basic forest. Off of his lands, he casts Chain of Smog at me. I discard both Hibernation dudes and put the Predator into play. I don't take the risk of copying Chain. If he has a Liege, we could just lose the game to it, making the Smiter massive and being unable to attack whilst he further develops his board state. We draw an unclaimed territory, and weirdly enough, we name Sliver with it. I get in with my 4/4 and pass back. Engineered Plague on Sliver seems alright for him. It means I don't have any good attacks next turn. He deploys Port and casts a River Boa. Another territory naming Sliver. Dryad Arbor from our opponent, leaving him with 1 card in hand. We draw Harmonic Sliver and wreck that Plague faster than you can say Plague-oo. 4-4 in, Riverboro regen blocks. Maybe Riverboro is better than I gave it credit for. He untaps, draws a card and concedes. I guess he might have literally no way in his deck to interact with our board now that the Crystalline Sliver is in play. GG Shroud E. And now it's time for the audience engagement question of the week, guys. This week I'm playing Slivers, so I want to know what is your favourite MTG tribe and why is it cats? Sound off in the comment section below, and I might even read some of the responses in next week's video, or one of next week's videos, if they're funny enough. So don't make them shit. In round 2, we keep a hand of 1-drops, Vial and a Lord. Our opponent won the die roll and goes Petal, LED, Rite of Flame, Desperate Ritual, Seething Song, Belcher. Activate, Dome me for 6. The LED allows him to activate it again next turn. This means I have to draw exactly a Smelt effect, Stifle, or Pithing Needle, all of which are not in my 75. Our opponent even says that he likes my work. Shame I don't like his. We lead Cavern naming Human and an Aether Vial to hopefully give him the false read that we are on D&T and he doesn't have to consider Force of Will next game. We then get belched. Say it with me, kids. Let's keep Stoneforge, Mystic, Bandit. Oh shit, sorry, wrong format, sorry. In game 2, we pulled out some Lords and bought an Aether Sworn Canonist and Harmonic Sliver. On the play, we can risk a non-force hand if we can turn to a Canonist, but ideally we just need a force hand. Double Force, Vial, and 2-man lands. Yeah, fuck it, snap it off. We play Mutavault into Vial and pass. He casts Land Grant and reveals his hand. I think long and hard about where to force here. I eventually decide that I want him to commit as many resources as possible to his game plan before I force, to get maximum chance of him not being able to draw into a critical mass of spells again in a few turns, so I allow Land Grant to resolve. Forest, Tinderwall, sack it for 2 red, and use that red for Ritual. Sure, allow it. Second Ritual, no. Okay, time to get my beat down on. I play Mutavault, activate Mutavault, and it is Summoning Sick. Oh, for fuck's sake, Modo. Should have just played the Cavern of fucking Souls. Our opponent doesn't do a whole lot. We play a 1-drop and attack for 2. He doesn't do anything else again, and we play a Lord and attack for 8. He then goes Chrome Mox, exiling Empty the Warrens, LED, Burning Wish, cracking the LED with the Wish on the stack, Pyroclasm. We untap, Harmonic Sliver his mana source away and crack him for 4 and our opponent scoops it up. We have an unkeepable 7 into a mediocre 6 that just cannot beat Belcher. We go to a 5 with a land, Vial, Threat, Force and something to pitch to Force, so let's go, let's fucking do it. Opponent needs Mox, nothing else, we make a Muscle Sliver. Nothing from our opponent, we play a Crystalline Sliver off the mana we have available. Opponent plays a Petal and passes, we make a Hibernation Sliver in end step. This allows us to commit hard to the board and be able to dodge Pyroclasm or bounce a blue back to our hand in order to enable Force of Will. We get in for 8. Our Petal is cracked for red, Rite of Flame, Burning Wish. Now, I think this might be the time to force him in hindsight, knowing what his hand is after this, but the popular conventional logic is to counter the card tutored for. He casts Land Grant here, and we see that I can only describe as a near perfect hand, a shit ton of mana, a Pyroblast, and 2 copies of Empty the Warrens. I conclude that Force isn't the answer here. However, at this point I can see 7 cards in the revealed zone, but only 6 cards are in his hand. Don't realise that Wish isn't a tutor for the deck, it's a tutor for the sideboard, which means Empty the Warrens was revealed to it. So at this point where I think, without looking at his hand size, that he has 2 Empty the Warrens in hand, he actually doesn't have 2 Empty the Warrens in hand. This changes things dramatically, as this makes Force of Will effective at any of his mana sources or even this Ritual. At the time of recording I didn't catch this, and yeah, I fucking fucked that up. Yeah. Anyway, he empties his hand and shits out a proverbial shit ton of zombies. And by zombies I mean goblins. I don't know why I've written zombies in my script. End of turn I deploy another Sliver. I untap and draw the first strike Sliver, which is great here for making our attacks solid. I only attack with 2 dudes here, which is weird because in hindsight, this is the only turn I could feasibly have gotten in with absolutely everything. I bounce my Crystalline back to my hand and recast it. Hibernation Sliver is wicked for stuff like this. This gives you more blockers next turn. He crashes in with 10 of the Gobbos and I reset the Hibernation Sliver and block half of them down to whittle down his numbers as much as possible. We go to 11 and he has 9 Gobbos left. We draw another Sliver. We attack and take him to 1 after blocks. He plays another Spirit Guide out and decides that he's seen enough and he can't win this race. So my opponent tells me in the chat that he's actually in the middle of a 24-hour stream, so I popped my head in to say hello to Angus over at CBR MTG.
PleasantKenobi, short side note, I took your Wasteland Storm to my like weekly modern event and I went 2-1. It was a lot of fun. Would you like to say anything to the viewers at home? Oh, what? That's really cool. We are CBR MTG, biggest, smallest community in Australia. Looking forward to rivaling the likes of UK and the US. So we'll see. But that's really cool. Thank you for the collab. I appreciate it.
Round 3, 2-lander, evasion, pumps, anti-removal, and a vial. Snap it off. Our opponent brainstorms off of a C in response to this vial, which makes me think he's looking for counter magic, and this is some form of Delver or control. We got dazed. Seems so bad for us, to be honest. Inquisition takes our hibernation sliver as it blanks a lot of his removal, and that doesn't feel great for us. We play one predatory boy. We top deck hibernation sliver and attempt to windmill slam it, but he forces it, pitching True Nemesis. Sadness. We get in for 2. Only kidding. He failed pushes, taking our threat off the board as well. Oh, this is not good. But then again, something does smell fishy. A little undead. Inquisition on his turn takes our flying sliver and he casts a fishy undead fish. So I did that. I made a joke that I might be thinking he's cheating, but he's not. It's just the Gomag. No? Okay then. We draw a Lord and slam both Lords into play. Ponder into Delver from our opponent, which means this is highly likely to flip here. A poem in 6 words that a creature deck does not want to hear. Delver flips, revealing Lightning Bolt. Fuck. The clocking begins, we draw and play Hibernation, and in response he fetches and bolts our Lord. That's fair enough, that makes sense. We get hit in the air, and we draw a muscular young man and deploy it. There's still no good attacks here, even our Mutavault is only a 4/4 activated. We get hit again and go to 11, we draw another Lord, play it, and get into the red zone with Mutavault and Hibernation Sliver. He offers up the trade for the fish, and I take it. This turns on his removal, but we do have 4 creatures, so hopefully we can just race the Delver, plus removal spells. He plays a second Delver and doesn't attack, which is very telling about his hand not having enough removal in it. He also plays a fetch land, leaving 1 card in hand. We draw another Slivery personal trainer, and we get Swole, bitch. He scoops to the Mutavault activation and reveals Force of Will in his hand, showing us just how bad this card is in fair matchups. We do the usual in boarding out forces for Hunter and Siphon Slivers. I call this maneuver the Swappity Droppity Floppity Swap.
I don't even know what that means.
No one knows what it means, but it's provocative.
No, it's not. It's
Gets
gross.
the people going.
Double Vial, 3 lands including Cavern, 2 Lords. It's not something we snap off, but it's good enough. We actually want our first Vial to be forced here, ideally, to get 2 cards out of his hand. They lead Volk, we play a Mutavault and cast a Vial, and it sticks. Shit. We also do the 3rd Vials. This is what they call in the profession hot air. They bring our Vial, which is okay. Trading 1 for 1 ain't too bad, and it means our Slivers are likely to survive. I play a Cavern and play the first Vial, and then I play the other Vial of our other land. He then dazes the second one, probably because the card is now dead in his hand, sure, but putting stuff behind the land is a real cost. Daze isn't as free as people believe it to be. He then casts Bitter Blossom. Whoa, boy. I opt to animate Mutavault and get into the red zone here to pressure his life total as much as possible. I play the second Mutavault that we drew. He plays a Wasteland. He blows up our Goat Warrior land. Sadness. I play our freshly drawn first striker and attack, no blocks. I activate Vial and he electricaries our first striker prior to the Vial ability resolving and revealing a Lord. Whilst this is solid play from him, I question him bringing this card in against Slivers. It just seems bad. Edict kills our Predator. We get in for 2 with our Turtle Crab Cleric, play Gale Rider, and keep up Vial, hoping that he might be able to surprise him here to kill some Fae with a surprise Lord. However, they do not fall for it. Instead, we have a Ponder, Wasteland Mutavault, Gurmag, pass. Seems like a very solid turn in my opinion. We Vial in Steroid Sliver in end step, we attack, he triple blocks our Flying Enabler, so I Vial in the Lord and take the trade and take him to 6. More blockers from him, we play a Hibernation Sliver off the Vial mid-combat to save our creatures blocked by Gurmag when we flunge. We get to then recast our Lord post-combat, which means we've basically paid 2 life to Abyss him once. Delver flips, revealing a Brainstorm, which our opponent casts. Delver gets into the red zone, which is fucking optimistic from him. We draw a Gale Rider, play it, and crack in the air. Luckily for him, he's able to bolt our flyer, and we bounce it to hand. He then has no blocks that save him, so, you know, GG get wrecked! Okay, so let's address the elephant in the fucking room here for players that have been playing for a while. How do I feel about the Sliver redesign in M14? Alongside the introduction of everyone's favourite bulbous phallic ooze and a series of colour hoses that made Brian Kibler very, very upset. M14 brought us to the turn of Slivers. We got a splashy legendary mythic, a land that made Slivers, and a complete overhaul of their design. For some Vorthos context here, Slivers are a hive mind of creatures which combine together to be greater than the sum of their parts. They're meant to be an adaptive swarm in which they evolve and grow at the whims of their queen. Originally, they were elongated and legless. They were identifiable by their large bone-plated heads and singular clawed arm, for lack of a better word. It's not really an arm. The reason I like this old design so much is that they all kind of look like limbs. Limbs for the Sliver Hive, a group that is greater than the sum of its parts, and thusly each card looking like a tendril, a claw, a leg, an arm, is incredibly flavourful. Beyond that, it was cool to have some non-humanoid antagonist and primal force in the Magic universe that could be the natural and organic antithesis to the Borg-like Phyrexians. The argument for the visual design of M14 and M15 was that they had evolved to be more humanoid and look like a fucking predator. I mean, one or two of them look like lions and shit, and whilst I got the logic and I get where they were going with it, I thought it really damaged a stylistic and aesthetic choice that had been absolutely solid up until that point. I think the transition removed a lot of uniquely alien qualities, with some of them looking almost robotic in style. It's not even like the art is bad, it just feels like a weak creative choice, and I just really dislike it. Anyway, moving on. Round 4, so far so good. Our first hand is solid enough, but a turn 1 Thoughtseize takes our Vial, which is kind of lame. Urborg means this is either Pox or Turbodepths, most likely, both of which feel like absolutely miserable matchups for us, especially if it's Pox and we've lost the Vial. We play our first, striking 1-1 for 1, which is an obvious legacy staple. They play a Thespian stage, it's Turbodepths. This matchup at first feels pretty unwinnable. We get fucking hymned, lose a land and another 1-drop. We draw and play Caracas, the best card we have in the main board for this matchup, so I'm pretty happy about that. We play Hibernation to allow us to swing into this Vampire Hexmage, when in reality a Muscle Sliver was probably 100 times better. This was a punt. We swing, he blocks the Lord, and we return it to hand. He untaps player Liliana, the last hope, and then kills our 1-1 because I F6'd. Yeah, that's a fucking punt. The game goes on and we draw nothing but vials and lands. He needles both the vial and the Hibernation Sliver. We struggle to keep Liliana in check because of the first striking vampire and no lords. However, we have Caracas and he hasn't been able to needle it, so we are in an okay position for not dying to the combo. Just with very little pressure on him due to our punts and miss sequencing, meaning we don't really have much of a board presence. Then a wild Dark Depth appears on turn 8. We just hope they don't draw a third needle for this Caracas. They transform a Thespian stage into a Sliver Hive at one point, which is horrifying as they can make their own slivers before we can, which are buffed off of my slivers. This matchup feels so fucking bad. Eventually they draw a green source, crop rotate into a ghost quarter and end step, blow up my Caracas, untap, make a 20/20 in my end step of course, and kill me with it. Yeah, fuck. Turn 1 of game 2, Thoughtseize, check to the coast is clear. Then turn 2 we see a Urborg plus a Bayou, crop rotate Bayou into Dark Depths, make 2 black mana, cast a Vampire Hexmage, and then make a Merit Rage in our end step when we don't make a Caracas. We actually draw the fucking Force of Will the turn after this has gone down, which would have been a great for that crop rotation, but ultimately this matchup feels bad. Perhaps not unwinnable, but game 1 could have gone a lot better if I hadn't punted and drawn 1 or 2 more creatures, but anyway, onwards and upwards.
Final round.
Keep a 5-lander because it has a Mutavault. Crystalline Sliver tends to allow us to wreck any mid-range removal heavy decks. It isn't ideal, but I just don't think I can justify mulliganing it. Aradmessa, Taiga, Noble? What the fuck is this? We lead with a Crystalline Sliver and he plays a fucking True Name Nemesis off of a Taiga, a Noble and a Tundra. What on earth is this nonsense? Mad fucking lad. We top deck the ideal card here in Flanking Snake Man. I play a Lord, play a Flanker and swing. He thinks for a while, probably reading up on flanking to see if it works how he thinks it works. And for the record guys, fun fact, it doesn't target so it can kill True Name. He takes it. He brainstorms, fetches and plays a Wild the Cattle.
What year is it? No. What year is it?
It seems to be some form of 4-colour zoo. Another noble means this Nemesis makes a rather roided up and noble attack for 5. I play 2 Lords and smash in, he takes a draw and concedes the sheer power of slivery goodness. I just have too much power for him and he can't interact. We do the switch out forces for better mid-range slivers and get ready for turn 1 Vial. He plays a turn 2 Chrysali. Rip. We play a Predator, he attacks for 3 and then our upkeep blows up the Vial and wastelands our coloured source. Because of the leading of this Mutavault earlier to enable it to attack sooner, we are now now struggling to cast Hibernation Sliver against a Wasteland deck. We play a first striker and our Predator gets plowed. We sequence this really awkwardly, but then again, at the same time, perhaps the aggressive sequencing might have been better if we didn't see the Wasteland, so there's a debate to be had there. He does nothing in his turn, we cast Hibernation and he plows the first striker in response. Just stop. Please, no more fucking removal. Scoos! We play Lifelink on attack and he doesn't offer the trade. He plays a fucking Huntmaster of the Fells, which is terrifying. We play a first striker and a Lifelinker. We swing. In his turn, he does fucking nothing. Our upkeep, Huntmaster flips and shoots a Hibernation Sliver, so we bounce it back to hand. We go to recast it, but in response, they path one of the Siphon Slivers and bolt the other one. Are you for real? Fuck me. Oh man, that is fucking brutal. We play two dudes, flip the Huntmaster back, and this allows him to do nothing in his turn and flip it again. Shooting one of our dudes. I don't know if flipping it back was a punt or not. I generally don't have a fucking clue. I bounce it back in response to the trigger, play two more dudes and pass back. Huntmaster flips back. Guess what happens? Yeah, you guessed it, he casts no spells and flips it back in my turn, but because of Crystalline Sliver, our boys survive and I just take two to the face instead. We play a Sliver and don't attack because our 3/3s are brickwalled by the Huntmaster of the fucking hells. We get to Harmonic Sliver as freshly drawn Sylvan Library, but this goes on for a while where I just need to draw one more Lord to enable decent attacks. We get there eventually on turn 14, but at this point I don't even think I can attack properly here. I'm fearful that I just get chewed out in the crackback. I think ultimately I should have pushed him to try and attack, but I was too busy holding out for one of my 6 flying enablers. On top of that, perhaps letting the fucking Huntmaster flip back and forth so much was bad. It was really bad. The Huntmaster flips back and forth, making combat math a chore and killing me slowly. Eventually I crack in, but it's just not good enough. I really wish just one of my Siphon Slivers survived that vital mid-game turn, as that would have made favourable racing with our attacks and first strike. Game 3 is a lot closer though. We lead with a striker, he bolts it in response to our Hibernation Sliver on turn 2. Turn 2 he plays in a Cattle and Green Suns for a Dryad Arbor. We failed to draw a third land, which is kind of frustrating. It would have been great for playing both the Provoking and a Flanking Sliver, which would have been great and stops double blocks here. We play the Provoke Sliver and swing, provoking his Dryad Arbor. He double blocks and I opt to kill the Cattle while it's still a 2/2. Really looking back on it, I think an attack here was bad and we should have just looked to deploy and develop our board. Tuna Nemesis arrives, we have flanking so it's fine. Kinda. I take a turn to play Hibernation Sliver, we get chunked by the Merfolk Bastard. We untap, play a Striking Sliver and a Flanker. This feels pretty solid. We attack and provoke the Dryad Arbor with a Hunter Sliver and a Plows targets the Hibernation Sliver. We bounce it back to hand. Nothing but an attack from our opponent. This should signal removal, but I ignore this. Perhaps fatigue from the 5th game in a row that morning, but it was dumb. I get greedy. The following turn I attempt to ensure I can win this race by playing a Siphon Sliver and swinging, and the Siphon Sliver eats a fucking removal spell. Oh, I think I'm just punting this game away. Another swing, we go to 8, and Scoos makes this race a lot harder. That said, if we can dodge removal, flanking plus revoke and first strike can kill the Scoos here. Yeah, he has a path. Of course he fucking does. I can't bounce it as my life total is just too low. He 3s us again. We make our team fly and attack for 5. He eats his way back up to 9. We can win this race if he doesn't have Bolt. He attacks us for 3, takes us to 2 and casts Lightning Bolt. GG. He doesn't seem very chatty when I say GG to him, so I commit suicide by bouncing a dude. Sliver Seppuku, the honourable way to finish a league. That last round felt considerably unlucky, if I'm honest. My Slivers were up to eat his blockers and creatures for breakfast, but he drew 4 to 5 1-mana removal spells instead of just dudes, and I saw not one Crystalline Sliver to counter that either. It was very, very close, but the draws didn't match up very well for me. Ultimately, I'm very happy with a 3-2 with the first angle in this deck, and I was scared because I'd seen some really weak lists that I thought would struggle to take games, but some of the main board Slivers are incredibly good against mid-range decks, whilst the sideboard helps to show up combo matchups. What did you think? Did I get lucky with my matchups? Did I get unlucky versus Zoo? Is there a key Sliver synergy I left out or missed? Let me know in the comment section below, and don't forget to tell me what your favourite tribe in Magic is as well. I want to know. I hope you enjoyed this experience. I haven't even mentioned shitting in someone's shoe. What? Oh, fuck. I thought I'd get through one whole video without mentioning it. Don't forget guys, I stream every single Monday night at 7 PM BST. I upload videos once, twice, sometimes 3 times a week, so make sure you're subscribed as well. Don't forget to like, don't forget to comment, and I'll see you all very, very soon. Ta-ta for now.